Hi, welcome to Florida Capital Tea. My name is Anna Marie, and I'm sitting down with Lynne Takacs today. We're going to talk about the development. But before we do that, let's go over a few housekeeping things. This past Monday and Tuesday was a school board meeting. You can go back and review those either on our Facebook page, or you can go to the Leon County School Board page and you can view it there. Don't forget, Tuesday is voting. It's your last day to vote. This episode is dropping on Sunday. You still have one chance for early voting on Sunday, but if you don't get a chance to, don't worry. Tuesday, you can vote. Make a plan to be there. All right, you ready to jump into it?
Let's do it.
Okay. So you have been talking about Lake Jackson, and that's kind of how you and I connected, was over the Lake Jackson development and what's going on there. So like, what's the update on that? What's going on?
So the last I've heard is that, well, let me back up a little bit. So the annexation was filed with the city. The county did wind up objecting to it. When that happened, they have an interlocal agreement where the county administrator and the city manager are supposed to both meet on it. They did that. They could not come to an agreement. So according to the interlocal agreement, they then go through mediation. And that happened, I think it was this Monday.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, it was not successful.
Okay.
However, can't verify that one yet. But right now, it's going before the city council or city commission on September 9th.
Okay.
And they're going to formally vote on annexation. And that's also the one and only public meeting that people can come and be heard on the issue.
Okay.
So
is that an actual agenda item, or is that... So
it's on the agenda.
So they can
9th.
come at that time and show up and then speak about whether or not they're for it or against it. And
absolutely.
why. Okay.
But they can also send an email. And I would encourage everyone to do that, because you want to create basically a public record to show what the feelings were about it in the community. And so I think it's always important to do that. You can also make appointments with each commissioner and talk to them individually about it. Okay. Sometimes they won't make time for you. Sometimes they will. But I also, I show up as well and speak. So I try to cover all three bases, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because why not? You got to make your voice heard.
Right. I mean, that's what I do too, is, make sure that I have all those channels covered. Yes. And that way, I know that it's been heard. That way I know that they've heard me. Yeah. And I think that that's just really important.
It is.
Part of our participation. And again, adding your voice to the conversation.
Well, you only get 3 minutes before the commission, and they can also cut that. So if they have a bunch of people show up. I know at the last county commission meeting, we waited over 5 hours for our 3 minutes, and they were tired and cut it in half. So we had 90 seconds to say everything.
Quick.
So that's why it's really good if you can send an email, get it into the record, meet with them individually. A lot of times they'll give you up to 30 minutes. Yeah. And then you get your 3 minutes to go on the record as well.
And so in your position for the Lake Jackson development is to not allow it. And so what exactly are they wanting to do? They're wanting to increase the amount that they can build per acre?
Yeah. So right now it's kind of a complicated process. Originally September is when I first found out about it. And what they did was they stuck a bunch of this land, I think it was only around 1,400 acres at the time, into the comp plan. And what that would have done, they were looking to change the land use. And they were also looking to put it in what's called the USA, which is confusing. It's the urban services area. Yeah. And so those are the requirements to be able to build. And it was trucking through the process. Yeah. And because no one knew it was even there. Yeah. Because, who's sitting around reading the comp plan? No. So I found out about it in September and went and spoke against it. And we were really lucky because once we got the word out, people responded. Yeah. And the planning department actually backed off. They removed it. And they even put in their remarks that this is, going to cause a lot of issues with traffic, et cetera.
I remember then the state weighed in too.
Oh,
right?
Well, DEP. So when they're going through the comp plan, they're supposed to submit these maps for different agencies to review. And at the time, it was still in there because people hadn't really noticed. And DEP wrote back and said, hey, this is a terrible idea. If you put a development north of the lake, it's going to create havoc. Yeah. And it's going to create, too many nutrients going into the lake, et cetera. And so for DEP to come out and say this is a bad idea, it's a pretty bad idea. Yeah. And it's not, by the way, just going to affect Lake Jackson. So it's in the aquatic preserve. We're really lucky. We're the only freshwater aquatic preserve in the state of Florida.
Oh, wow. So this is like,
yeah. Yeah. And they give those designations based off of how rich the ecology is there. Like
Okay.
it's a pretty special place. It's not just a random lake. And the other thing that's interesting about the lake, a long time ago when it dried down, they put dye balls in the different sinkholes to see where they would come out. And guess what? One came out in Wakulla Springs, and I think the other was the Ocklawackney River. Can I
Oh, that
say
is
that
so
right?
cool.
Isn't that wild?
That's really cool.
But it shows like what happens here has a downstream effect. And
Right.
like, Wakulla Springs is really struggling with like nutrient loads. And chances are it's coming from the development that's already on the south side of Lake Jackson. And so, what we do here is not in a vacuum. It affects our neighbors to our south. And interestingly enough, I reached out to some of them just to let them know what was going on when the annexation was filed. It's voluntary by the landowner. That was filed, I believe, in May. And they had no idea. And you think, everybody in Tallahassee, we all talk. There's 1 degree of separation. But Wakulla Springs didn't know. And they actually weighed in on it, too, with the county commissioners to let them know.
And I remember following that back then. I remember following all of that and seeing that because I had no idea either. And then once your group kind of brought it to the attention, that's when I was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
And I thought that it was done after the comp plan. I thought we had solved it.
No.
DEP weighed in. No. We're good to go.
Well, when they filed for the voluntary annexation, basically the county was the one who pushed back on the comp plan and getting it out of there because, everyone I've heard from, I haven't found a single person who thinks it's a good idea unless they are the landowner or work for the landowner.
Yeah.
And for various reasons. And so basically they want to move it to the city and get a more favorable solution. Yeah. And so that's what's going on right now. And, it's a difficult one from the perspective of governance as well, because this decision is being made by a commission that will likely look very different in November. Yeah. And the decisions that are being made are impacting what they can do in the future.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And
the decisions that we make today
100%
are what impacts us tomorrow. And it also sets a precedence too.
100%.
So if we set a precedence today, it's going to carry over into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think a lot of people realize, and I didn't until, like I said, I found out about this in September. I actually found out the day it was happening. Yeah. And it was the commission meeting had just started. And I looked at my husband, I'm like, we need to go downtown right now. I was wearing jeans and a tank top. But I was like, I have to speak about this because this is such a bad idea. And I was incredibly naive. And I thought, if I got up there and explained to them that this is going to be terrible in traffic, it's going to impact the lake, like this is not a good idea, I thought they'd listen. I know, it's hilarious, isn't it? And they did not. And I was, my flabber was gassed. It was crazy. And so after that, I came home and, I told you earlier, like 22 years ago, I sound so old. I was a legislative aide. And one of the things that I learned during that process that was extremely valuable was you cannot win unless you know the rules. And so I, at that point on, just started researching. And I turned into Alice in Wonderland where I was falling through rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And it was like, well, I feel like we already have a whole lot of traffic. I sit in gridlock. Yeah. Either on school drop-off times or during rush hour traffic in the evenings, or God forbid there's a soccer game. It will back up from Miller Landing all the way to Timberlane. Yeah. And I feel this way, but can I prove it? And lo and behold, there's a way to prove it. And I can show that the traffic is high. Wow. I feel like when I go down to the new Publix on Bannerman, that's within 2 miles of Meridian, that all of those, that development back there is building a whole lot. Yeah. Well, guess what? There's a way to figure that out. There is 858 new housing units being built within a couple of miles of Meridian. Wow. Between Bannerman and there's it's combined between what's going on in Bannerman and Ox Bottom, but Ox Bottom only counts for that 60. Yeah. But we can prove it and show how this is going to cause even more gridlock. Yeah. So as I started falling through all these rabbit holes, and just finding information after information, that's when I decided to build the website for this very reason. And I didn't build the website until after the annexation was filed, but it was like, I want to be able to explain the why. Like, why should you care?
Yeah.
And not everybody cares about the environment.
Yeah.
But for those that do, they can go on the website and see that this large 1,742 acres, this is not small. It's more than half the size of Southwood. I mean, this is large.
Because you said, what was the 900 acres?
That's the size. That's the heel of Wallani.
Okay, so the heel of Wallani is 900. This would be 1,700.
Yeah, it's almost twice the size. Yeah. And it's more than half the size of Southwood. So this is not a subdivision. Because I know for me, how big is an acre? You know, if you're not living on acreage, how would you know?
Yeah.
1,742 acres could be the size of a city block, or it could be much larger than that. It is much larger than that, by the way. So, even finding that, of just trying to see, how big are we talking here?
Don't we measure everything in football fields?
In the South, I think we do. In college football fields. Yeah, and so that's what I started, to figure out. And, when you talk to people in terms of it's more than half the size of Southwood.
Yeah.
You can imagine that. And that's gigantic.
Yeah.
And when you imagine that on, right next to Lake Jackson, and when you imagine that traffic's already bad, and this is going to result in thousands of houses, because right now it is zoned rural, which is 1 house per 10 acres.
Which is a lot of houses.
It's a lot of houses, but it's less than 200.
Yeah.
And what they were looking for in the comp plan, and likely will do again, is called lake protection, which is a hilarious name. Because it is not what it sounds.
No.
I mean, you are supposed to do sewer instead of septic. Okay. Which is better.
Okay.
But is it better when you have all the pesticides and the fertilizers and all that coming off of thousands of homes and commercial space and restaurants and shopping, centers?
Parking lots,
all of it, the oil from your car, you cannot capture all of it.
No,
that is a myth. So even with septic, that is not a one size fits all. This is going to all go away. Yeah. So lake protection makes you do septic, and it has certain rules behind it. But I mean, at scale, it's just not protecting the lake. I hate to say that. Whoever came up with it is mighty creative, though. I will give them their flowers, But so lake protection, though, would allow up to 20 houses per acre and up to 20,000 square feet of commercial space per acre. Wow. So, in an acre, it's not as big as you think it is to put 20 houses on. Or 20 housing units. I mean, that could be a bunch of duplexes. It could be an apartment building. So it's not, it's hard to wrap your mind around the entire impact. And that's what I sought to do was, what does that mean with, roadways? And so the hard part is there isn't an actual plan filed. So you feel like, well, how can I explain this to somebody if I don't have a hard plan? Well, luckily, there are a lot of things we can compare it to. So Meridian Road would have to be expanded. Yeah. There's just not room. And so likely.
And I love Meridian Road. I'm just going to say,
amazing.
I grew up actually off Lake Shore Drive.
Okay.
And I just remember always driving down Meridian Road to go to various things. Every morning my mom would take us to church down Meridian Road, and we'd see all the canopy roads and just in the morning seeing the sunlight. And I just remember that was just so magical. It felt like I was not in Tallahassee. As a kid, my imagination ran wild.
Yeah. And I live on a canopy road. That's largely the part why we moved there. And when you can drive down a road and feel like you're in a tunnel of trees and literally see rays of sunlight
just coming through,
see rays. How wild is that?
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that I think makes Tallahassee unique and special. And I also think, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it's a value of our community that we protect those.
Yeah.
And we don't have many left. And so really the only solution, because it's a protected canopy road, but that basically means is if you stand in the middle, you have to go out 100 feet to the left and 100 feet to the right, and you're not supposed to do anything to it because it impacts the root system and the trees will not make it. So most likely they're going to have to build a parallel road to accommodate
all of that traffic.
And guess what? I learned roads are expensive. I mean, they're not just expensive, they're crazy expensive. And how do we know that? I mean, we can look at Blueprint has 3 roadway projects going on right now. One is for the airport, one is on Bannerman, and one is actually Willani. And why is Willani being built? Well, it's being built because of a development. And those 3 roadways actually add up to less than 15 miles and are over $500 million with a B dollars.
Wow.
And that is taxpayer dollars because it's Blueprint money.
So the developers don't actually have to pay to have these roads put in place,
So,
even though the development is what's causing the need for the road.
So this is another thing I learned, another rabbit hole. So how that works is, let's pretend this new development is going, like right now, Meridian averages, it's called an AADT, the annual average daily traffic. And every year you'll start to see strips go out on these. They're measuring that because they have to report back to DOT. Or to DOT. And the area near me is about 12,000 or so drivers. Let's pretend this new development, we're going to be super conservative. Let's pretend it only creates 3,000 new drivers, which, by the way, it's likely to create at least 3,000 houses. Leon County has 2.2 people living in every house. And I think right now, I read that the average driver's licenses in every home in Leon County, it's 1.75. So it's really, I mean, 3,000 is conservative. So that would be 25% of the road volume. So the developer would be responsible for paying for his impact to that. But there is a way to get around it. And so what you do is you give the city, county right-of-way to build the road on your property. And now this is where it gets a little bit like, what? Your property, because you've had it rezoned, the land use changed, it's worth a whole lot more. So every acre of land that you give them is worth more than it was prior to them making that decision. It's far more valuable. And so all you have to do is, give them enough right of way, and then they deduct that amount from what you owe. And it's actually plausible that you will not have to stroke a check at all.
Wow.
But somebody's got to pay for that road.
Which is the taxpayers.
It's you and me.
And it's actually the current people who are paying taxes right now, who are then going to be paying for this road
long into the future. Yeah. I mean, if you look at, so another good example, Bannerman Road. Bannerman intersects with Meridian. The Bannerman Road project, I actually, they tell everybody it started off at $33.3 million. If you actually look back, so what they do with Blueprint is they basically create like a slideshow, and they go into the community and they have discussions and they talk about, there's 3 choices of what we could do. If you look back to those, it was like the most expensive option, I think, was $12.8 million. And then it became a Blueprint project in 2014. And the amount of money it was estimated to cost was $33.3 million. Last year, or I guess this year, they looked at it. It's now estimated at $165 million. And they're just about to start this year. So it became a Blueprint project in 2014. They're going to start construction this year. It is not estimated to be finished till 2035.
I saw
21 years. 21 years. And my husband pointed out when I was explaining it to him, he's like, Lynn, it's going to be old enough to drink before it's ready to drive. And I'm like, you are so right.
It's really good.
It's hilarious. He is the king of dad jokes. Dad jokes are alive and well in our house. But that's the thing, is that getting a new road is not cheap and it is not fast. And where we are on Meridian, there's a lot of wetlands around it in the basin. There's going to be a lot of extra stuff you have to do that you did not have to do on Bannerman. It's going to be more expensive.
I mean, Meridian Road used to flood.
It still does portions of it.
So, I mean, like, I remember there would be any kind of rainfall. And the road would be flooded.
Oh, it's legit.
And,
it's legit.
So, I mean, that's not something that they can just easily go in and just put a road down and be fine.
No. I mean, Bannerman took 21 years. It's now at 165. It will go higher. It's inflation right now. Everything's going higher. So those are estimates based on today's dollar.
Yeah.
So it's just common sense. It's going to go higher. Meridian would cost far more because of the wetlands. I mean, they're going to have to do, I guess, sort of like a bridge.
And we still
to make
don't
that
have
work.
and we still don't have Tharp Street.
Well, that's part of the rabbit hole I fell down as well. So total nerd alert, I watch council meetings. I watch blueprint meetings.
Oh, I don't know anyone who does that.
I know. Who are these people?
Who does that?
Who are they? And so I had it on in the background one day, and I was listening to it, and there was all of a sudden this big brouhaha. And people were like, where are we at on Tharp Street? And a lot of the commissioners were basically holding the blueprint staff to account for it. And there's a few interesting things that came out of it. One was the blueprint staff was like, listen, you guys are the ones who set the priorities. And we've told you from the beginning, we did not have enough money for all the priorities you set. Now, I'm pretty sure blueprint dollars go through 2039. So all the things that have been listed as priorities for our community, there's not enough money, period. And I feel more than certain they're going to have to start cutting back because they've got to start trimming it because these costs keep going up for these 3 major roadway projects that they never anticipated. And so the money's got to come from somewhere. You know, it's just like anybody's budget. It is not infinite. Yeah. And so when they started talking about Tharp Street, I was like, curious. I looked it up. Tharp Street, they did a study on it in 2005 and said, you need a roadway expansion and you need sidewalks. So they started moving through the process. I think they stopped in 2009. They got through 60% of design and said, we're out of funds. Well, 2014 rolls around. And both Tharp Street and Bannerman were listed as blueprint projects. And interestingly enough, Tharp Street was more expensive. I think it was over $50 million at the time. More, you know, so it was higher than what Bannerman was. Well, they started trucking along. And if you look at the timeline, I actually put it on my website. Bannerman Road, the project was expanded. And they decided to widen a longer part of it, like all the way down. They've added a massive roundabout that they're going to have to actually shift the entire intersection for at Meridian. They have added sidewalks in adjacent neighborhoods. They've added a trail. This is real interesting. So there's a trail that they want to put on Meridian Road. That's I think it's about 5 miles from Forest Meadows all the way to Orchard Pond Parkway. And it's gravel. So that's very expensive, believe it or not. Who knew? So they've got it's become sort of a catch-all for several things. Well, meanwhile, Tharp Street still doesn't have sidewalks. And they also took away the expansion. And that's part of the cost cutting because, again, tax dollars are not infinite. So why that really matters is Tharp Street has one of the highest pedestrian uses in our city. And the people who are walking on Tharp Street are forced to walk literally in ditches and sometimes on the road because they can't, there's a guardrail right there. It is actually a life safety issue. And so we've got people, and I drove down Tharp Street just the other day. I was picking up my husband from the mechanic, and there was a man walking down the road. There was grass up to his knees, and it was that grass, that has the V on it and all the little seeds. It's called Baja grass or something. His pants from his knees down were wet because of dew, covered in all these little black dots. And I couldn't help but think, where's his dignity when he shows up to work like that? You can't feel confident. Kids are walking in ditches to school. And, it's heavily, the pedestrian, a lot of people are using it also because they're walking to the bus stop to get to work. And so this is not an area where, sidewalks are optional. Now, Bannerman Road, I don't see a whole lot of people walking on Bannerman Road.
Yeah, I mean, most people...
They're driving.
Most people who've moved out there have vehicles and they're driving around, whereas most people on Tharp Street may not have vehicles. Walking is their main form of transportation or bicycles or,
And it is literally a life safety issue. I looked up one report, and this was put out by, I think it's called the Capital Area Region Transportation Authority. I might have gotten that one wrong. But they talk about how dangerous it is and how The average for like the state of Florida is, I think, like 0.06, the crash average on roads. And theirs is like over 2. I mean, this is not a aesthetic.
Yeah.
This isn't a desire for, wouldn't this be beautiful?
Yeah.
It's a necessity.
Right.
And, when you stop and you think that Banner or Tharp Street since 2005 has been on a list to get sidewalks. And they
20 years later
ostensibly get pushed to the back of the line.
Yeah.
Like that is a real life example of the true cost. So cost isn't just hundreds of millions of dollars to build a new road because there's not infrastructure where this is.
Right.
It's an opportunity cost. So that when we put all of our money over here, we don't have money for the other things. Right. And that's not just, projects like adding sidewalks. That's maintenance for roads.
Yeah. So
part of what I really wanted people to understand is what is really the cost of all this? What's at stake? Mm-hmm. It's not just saying, yeah, this would be really great to have a whole bunch of houses. No, there's a cost to all of us. And it's not just the people close by. Because I feel like in our community, and I don't think this is like a thing unique to our community, we have a radius of our lives, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times if it's happening in our neighborhood, we care about it. And we might engage.
Yeah.
But if it's happening somewhere else, that's not our problem. So Tharp Street not having sidewalks, first of all, how many people know? And then how many people care? And so
and the people who are using Tharp Street don't have time to go to a commission meeting. They don't have time to watch a blueprint meeting. They don't have time to, to go advocate for these things. Whereas
they're putting food on the table. That's where their time is going.
Right.
They're, making sure that their kids have a roof over their head. It's that whole, hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
You can't really think about the next thing if you don't have your basics met. And for a lot of people who live over there, it is a struggle. Mm-hmm. And that's true for many people in our community.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that when we approve developments that are not near infrastructure, like Welaunee, like this would be off of Lake Jackson, everyone in our community is paying for it. And that means the people who don't have 2 pennies to rub together, they are subsidizing a luxury development. And the houses that are there are out of reach for a lot of people in our community. And so, it's a fairness issue as well. And that's why it's so important that people engage, because you have a say in this. Mm-hmm. We all, in theory, have a dog in this fight.
Yeah. Because
it is your taxpayer dollars that are at work here. And, if we keep funding and saying yes to developments that are the definition of urban sprawl.
Yeah.
We can't say yes to other ones that might actually be within Capital Circle, within the urban services area already. So there's a cost to that. And I think it's important that people realize how that all works.
Because even all the sewer has to run out there too. And it makes me think about, I don't know if you remember the family who had the sewage back up into their home, right?
Awful.
And it was the fault of the city not having updated, all their sewage. And so I think about that, and I think about how many families are being, affected by this. This is, last time I followed up with them, they were still in mediation or in legal conversations with the city over this, because the city has admitted fault, but they didn't want to pay for the full damages to be repaired. And so we have this family who's been paying taxes, who's been living in the city. They've lived here for years and years and years. Something happened to their home, and now, it's putting them in a financial situation because they can't fix their home because they don't have the money to fix it.
Well, the irony to that is their property taxes are supposed to pay for the maintenance of the very thing that created the problem. Yeah.
And I think about all these other developments that we keep on expanding, the city of Tallahassee out into.
Yeah.
And then we have to pay to have those services put there because now they're annexed into the city. So now they have to, have those services. But we're neglecting the taxpayers who have been paying and now who are suffering from dilapidated, pipes or from,
a road that needs to be repaved.
And not having the sidewalks on it. And so I my heart, obviously is for all of our neighbors,
Mhm.
and I want to make
Yeah.
sure that like all of our neighbors are being treated fairly and they're
Yeah.
being advocated for and they're having that. And so I love that whenever you talk about this, you do think about every single neighbor and how it affects them from, the people who are living on Meridian Road all the way to the people who are over on Tharp Street
Yeah.
who are being affected by not having a road because of all these developments. And I don't think it's anti-development either.
No.
Because I feel like, everyone who I talk to is genuinely, hey, we like development. We agree we need more housing, we need more businesses. Everyone is for development. I think it's the way that it's going about doing it.
Mhm.
And it's whenever you see this property that is obviously in a protected area, right? It's a sensitive lake, and then we're seeing possibly development there. That seems like an easy question or an easy answer, right?
I would think so.
Why would we expand out there?
Yeah.
So I agree.
Yeah, and I heard that same blueprint meeting I was listening to. One of the things that Commissioner Minor brought up, and I'm not even sure what it was in reference to, but he said, we can either have 3 Teslas or like 9 Hondas.
I remember that.
Yeah, and that's that's what we're talking about. Because again, if we want this luxury development and that's what they choose, there's a huge cost to that.
Yeah.
But what about, also adding by doing urban infill and maybe doing pocket developments that are more workforce housing?
Yeah.
So I don't want to tell anyone how to feel.
Yeah.
That is not, that's not my job. And everybody has a different viewpoint in that. Yeah. My goal is to make sure people understand what goes into this, what's at stake. And I also care deeply about the people who are already there. So when I think about Meridian Road, and this is what I remember coming home very clearly, and I can't remember a lot, but I came home that night and I thought, how is it possible that the wishes of one person can impact thousands of people around it? Mm-hmm. So in such a negative way, and it be allowed? Because for traffic right now is difficult at certain times of day for Meridian. And this would add thousands more people to it. And at the time I wasn't even thinking about the cost of expansion. Yeah. And there's a balance to that, and making sure there's people who've already invested in being in that area. Mm-hmm. Because that's what buying a home is. And no one, I think, could have imagined seeing that coming. And even our friends over in, by Velda Dairy, you've seen that that's happening, where they've gone in and they've taken out that whole corner. Mm-hmm. And they're putting in all that development. I have such compassion for them because they are a cautionary tale. Because from what I understand, the neighbors in that area got over 1,000 people to sign a petition to say, we do not want this rezone. Oh,
and they showed up too. They did everything. They got the petitions. They sent the emails. They all showed up to the meeting to speak.
Yeah. And then they had the same outcome. Yeah. You got a great smile and then a vote against you. Yeah. And that's why, these rezoning issues matter, because the people who bought homes over there could have never imagined that the buffer between them and Thomasville Road would disappear. Yeah. That all that noise would be in their backyard. Mm-hmm. That there would be a oil change and tire change place behind them. And I don't know what the impact is yet on the groundwater, et cetera, but there is an impact. That they would be smelling whatever the fast food restaurant is that's going to be put there for drive-through. And then let's also consider, Thomasville Road is no cakewalk when it's busy. And you're going to put places for people to turn off on one of those lanes. And so there's huge impacts when these things happen. And that's why it's so important that the public participates, but also that they know what's happening. Because how often, this is part of how my experience, I've gone onto Facebook and seen Tallahassee Democrat shows this photo of all this land cleared because there's huge development going in, and people are outraged. And they're not just outraged because they wanted to keep those trees. They're outraged because they had no idea. And
it's going to affect them somehow.
Oh, yeah.
And so every single time one of those things affects people obviously, rightfully so, get upset about it. I will fully admit I was not super involved in the government and politics and everything that was happening until I started
That's
doing
the burden
this page.
of knowledge.
I know. And until I started doing this page, right?
Yeah.
I was one of those people who was just driving through town and I'd be like, oh, wow, that's a new thing that's going in there. I wonder when that happened. And I was completely oblivious to any process leading up to something going in somewhere. And I might even be like, well, that doesn't really make sense that they would put that there. But it wasn't something I really thought about, you know? And I think that that's one of the issues, is that a lot of people don't realize any of this is happening and the process that goes behind it. And this is where something like this, having a conversation about it, talking about it way in advance before it happens, getting that information out there, and then telling people what they can do to be involved, to be engaged, to have their voice at the table, to make sure that they're heard, make sure that's documented, because even if it goes through, the documentation matters.
It does.
So anyone who has ever spoken at a meeting or who has signed a petition and there's been 1,000 signatures on it, that still matters.
100%.
Even if it's already been approved. You know, there is still a record of it, and it still has weight.
Well, it has weight in a lot of ways. So one of the things I keep running into is people are like, well, it doesn't matter. It's going to get done anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I get it. Boy, do I get it.
I
And
know.
those are people whose trust has been broken.
Yeah.
And that's a tragedy, because public trust is sacred and it's fragile.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the people who are breaking it, you know, they should have to answer for that in some way, because it's sacred. And so my worry is that if we all just say and throw up our hands and say, it doesn't matter, what are you doing? You're removing any obstacle or any sort of opposite idea or interest out of the conversation. And so what's going to happen? It's going to start moving through faster, and it has a snowball effect. Yeah. So that very thing that you hate, you have actually contributed to it picking up steam. Yeah. So there's that. But there's also, and you know, a lot of people don't know what's happening, and it's because the process is hard to know. Like the thing going on with Lonnie right now, I happened to find it because I saw it on an agenda item. Who's sitting around reading agenda items?
I don't know who.
I know who. And so you almost have to rely on some random nerd like me, although I'm not volunteering to say that I will read everyone. But like, you have to happen upon it. It's not obvious.
And this is where we're better together, right? So you have
100%.
And that's kind of like, you know, the whole page is about this, right? Where it's like, someone like you who's interested in this brought it to my attention. Yeah. Because I had no idea what was happening with Lake Jackson. I'm too busy looking at other things, you know, and then I have
raising kids and having a life.
Right. And then there's other people, other neighbors in our community that bring information and say, hey, did you know that this was happening? Sure. You know, and so that's where it's really important. And that's where these conversations matter, because you might be looking at, you know, this agenda item for whatever reason, and you can bring it to someone else's attention. Someone else might be looking at something else and bring it to your attention. And then we can kind of come together and say, hey, you care about this, I care about this. Let's go together and we'll talk about both of these things.
Well, I mean, what's interesting is the thing about the Lonnie. I happened to find it. I noticed I had to do a double take. Over 1,200 acres is moving through rezoning. Yeah. Well, they only have to tell people within 1,000 feet of it. Wow. So who's going to know? You know? So I happened to post about it. I called the city. First of all, the plan wasn't even online. So I had to call and request it. And then as I'm reading through it, I'm like, what is going on? Because the numbers are in there. It's almost 6,600 houses, and it's 425,000 square feet of commercial space. Wow. But there's disclaimers throughout it as well that say this is not the maximum. The numbers can change. And then there's parts of it that talk about the open space / green area, greenway. Okay. Well, it tells you this could be a lot of different things. This could be a stormwater pond. This could be a gathering space. And what that really means is we're going to go through, cut down all the trees and resod it, which of course is not the same value to wildlife. No. This could be a forested area, but none of that is clear of what those percentages are. And so because of that, what's happening if the planning department agrees to it is like, you're basically saying, yeah, you can kind of come in and create loopholes and exploit it later. And why that matters is once that part's built, it becomes the precedent for the next part. And so it's really hard to deny at that point. Right. So like, also when I called the planning department, I said, what about public comment? because I just feel really, really strong that people should have the opportunity to engage if they want to.
Yeah.
They should have the opportunity to review the plan. And how are they ever going to find it? It's not online.
Yeah.
They should have the opportunity to ask questions. They should have the opportunity to make comments. And so when I reached out to them, I brought up the public comment portion of it because I know that the landowner had hosted an open house where there were maps up. The plan was not there. I even asked, because I attended it,
Okay.
and said, when do you plan on putting this, like moving this through? Oh, no plan, no buyer. So how would you know? And so when I read about it online, I decided, like post it so that people knew. I put up a quick page about it. And I asked, I also asked about the public comment. They said, well, basically we had a bunch of public comment back in 2020. And that was for the master plan. So we don't, we've technically already done it. And I was like, but isn't this map that we're looking at different? Doesn't this plan have more details than before? Yes, it does. Well, then shouldn't there be an opportunity for public comment? And the answer was, well, technically there is. People can come to the design review committee meeting and make a comment. And then there's going to be a planning commission meeting and they can make a comment there. And also they can make a comment when they vote on it at the city commission. But how would anybody know to do that?
Right. Because
unless they read the agenda item, you have no idea it's going through. So one of the things I would love to see is more transparency in the process where remember the old commercial for Domino's where they're like, you can watch on the app your pizza moving through the process. Yes. You called. Now it's getting ingredients. It's in the oven. And so I kind of would like to see that where we know where it's moving through the process and also when we can engage as a public.
Yeah.
But also what's really important is that, and people I don't think realize this, they think public engagement and comment is just, it's for people to say they don't want it. Mm-hmm. That's actually not true.
Yeah.
So a couple of people, when I was looking at the comments about Wulani, had interesting comments that were super valuable. One person said, I hate how they keep cutting down trees. I would love to see more forested areas. This makes me so frustrated.
Yeah.
And so I commented back to them and I said, hey, here's the email address to reach out to the project manager. This is a valuable comment. Why don't you ask that more of that is in the open space / greenways? That is something that they can do. But if you're not asking for it, you have nothing to reference for the planning department to reference to then say, this is why we're doing it.
And the planning department just kind of thinks, okay, well, no one has a problem with what we're doing, so we're just going to keep moving forward.
I mean, their job basically is to balance the interests between the community and the developer.
Yeah.
How are they supposed to help balance our interest if we're not actively participating? Yeah. Another person brought up that they were concerned about the electrical grid because their power goes out all the time and they're right nearby. That is something that is an actionable item that they can do.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So being able to advocate in a way that you can be heard.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
And so I would love to see, and that's a big part of why I built the website, was not just for people to understand the real costs and the real impacts, but also to understand how to advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
And, because a lot of this, you're not going to stop a development at certain points and certain things start happening and there's checklists and all these different things. And if you want to stop it, I'm good for you. You should ask for it. But you could also, as it's moving through the process, you're not shut out as soon as they say, we're going to do rezoning.
Yeah.
There's still times where you have an opportunity as the public to participate. And how can we ask for it to be better if we're not willing to be active in the role?
Yeah.
So I want to see us be more transparent so people can be, but I also want people to know that this is part of being a good citizen is participating too. It's not just not running red lights. And there's way too much of that going on. But it's not just voting. Voting makes a huge difference and please go out and vote. But there's things that we can also do outside of that if we just know that it's happening and we know how to advocate.
Because it's not just, every 2 years or every 4 years for some people. You go vote and then that's the only time that your voice is heard. It's all years throughout the year and it's on different things. And even if I feel like you don't have something that you care about right now, just adding your voice to the conversation about someone else's, thing, that could be a big help too. Just showing support, just standing up and saying, hey, I may not be affected by what's happening on this part of town, but I care about it because these people care about it.
Well, it's your community.
They're my neighbors.
Yeah.
They're my neighbors, no matter where they live.
I want to see a change in that. Because like even when I was at the Development Review Committee on Monday, some of the folks that were there were from, it's called Good Night Buckhead. It's an adjacent neighborhood. And so they spoke about things that they were concerned about. And I got up and I said, I'm concerned that there are not caps and like the maximum is not clear based off of what's been submitted. And I'm also concerned that I can't tell what the natural areas are because prior, when the whole master plan was happening, there was a lot of negotiating going on with people who cared about certain issues. And so it was how they got their buy-in.
Yeah.
Where they made commitments.
Yeah.
And if you look through the plan, it's not clear that those commitments are in there and they need something that's enforceable. And so my ask is that, first of all, I'd love to see more time for public comment, but I also want maximums and something that's enforceable in there because otherwise we're writing a blank check.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's good governance ever. And so, when I was there, I spoke with the folks after and they're like, so where do you live? And I explained I live, off Meridian Road. They're like, well, why are you interested in this? Well, I'm interested on the impact on wildlife. I'm interested on the fact that we don't have public comment. Yeah. Like, it's a governance issue. And I'm interested because this is going to impact a whole lot of people who may not know about it, who may not, don't have time to anticipate. Yeah. Like, it's our job as a community to advocate for our community, not just our neighborhood. Yeah. So, I guess that's probably going to make me a nuisance. But I mean, I've learned a lot about the process and I want to help others with that.
I agree.
Because the job of a developer, when they're putting in plans and all that, they're advocating for their own best interest. Yeah. So it's important that someone's advocating on your behalf too.
Absolutely.
So I would love to just see what's possible. And sometimes that means going and meeting with the county or the city. They have biologists on staff. Did you know that?
Oh, that's cool.
I know. Like our tax dollars hire scientists.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty, really cool. I mean, talk about being punk rock. That's awesome. And so, you as a citizen can go and meet with them and ask them, what are some, these are my concerns.
Yeah.
What can I ask for that would mitigate that?
Right.
And you can ask for it. But I don't think a lot of people know that you can do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got to look out for, our best interest here.
Yeah.
Because the developers are looking out for theirs.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's not an anti-development thing. No. I just think if we're going to have them, let's make them the best possible outcome.
Yes.
For the most people possible. And so that's what I really want to advocate for is that we advocate well on our own and we know we can.
Yeah.
Because I think...
And we look out for each other. It's looking out for all of our neighbors.
100%.
And just making sure that everyone has someone representing them.
Yeah.
No matter what. And, sometimes that's having other people bring something to someone's attention.
100%.
Through conversation. Yeah. Sometimes that's us showing up and advocating. Sometimes that's us writing an email or signing a petition.
And by the way, it's working.
Yeah.
So I put out a post on Milani on Thursday. You shared it. Mm-hmm. Some other people shared it. They got over 60 written comments from Thursday to Sunday.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
That's amazing.
Like there are whole projects that don't get near that. Yeah. And this is just the beginning. So
because we're powerful. Like when we work together, we are powerful. Yeah. We're a force.
Yeah. And I think, there are people who know things really well. There are people who are like, they know the science behind the environment. They are great to talk to make sure that you're asking for the things like, your outcome, but you don't know how to ask for it.
Yeah.
Right. To go talk to the biologists, to go talk to the planners. Like they are there to help you.
Yeah.
Like that's what the planning department is for. It's not just to say, well, there goes that daggone planning department again. No, go work with them and, tell them what outcome you want and ask them, how do I get to that?
Yeah.
Like that is that's possible. And I just don't think most people know it's possible.
Mm-mm.
And so that's what I want to see, is that we have more agency, because I think like part of the reason why people are so upset about development, we love trees in this town.
Yeah.
Thanks be to God. I'm a huge fan myself. I think we're surprised.
Yeah.
And I think people feel a loss of control.
Yeah.
Well, get your power back.
Yeah.
You know, you can do that.
That's a good place to actually end it.
Yeah, let's do that.
So we're going to go ahead and end it. I'm going to have in the description below your website.
Awesome.
I'll go ahead and link Lynn's website. So you can go there. You can go through all of it. There's a lot of data, a lot of information. Again, on Tuesday, the 18th is your last day to vote.
Please vote.
If you don't get out, if you don't get out Sunday night, please get out and vote on Tuesday. Make a plan. Make sure that you're there. And thank you.
Thank you.